Hello and welcome to the 1/160th of a second photography podcast. Please do not forget to leave a review on iTunes. It would really help the show out. I think coming up to close to 100 episodes, it'd be nice to get some good reviews in on iTunes just to help spread the show a bit more and allow people to access the back catalogues of shows. So if you do that, thank you very much. I'd really appreciate it. In today's episode, I'm going to look and talk about my portfolio, and this is a specific portfolio. As you know, my work really is street photography, portrait and fashion shoots. Not in any particular order. I do a variety of things. I don't really shoot landscapes, don't really shoot architecture, and if I do, it's generally when I'm doing street photography. But my main focus is people, and I have a portfolio for my fashion and portraiture work. And I was reorganising it the other day, and I decided it's time for reorganisation. And it also struck me of the data in it is going to be quite useful. So the type of shoots I do are either paid or TFP, or sometimes referred to as TF shoots. Now, a TF shoot is where the person being photographed and the photographer and the photography, I don't know whether that's the right term, they have not a contract, although you can make it a contract. They have an exchange where no money changes hands, but both parties gain from it. So in typical practice, this means the photographer takes the images and edits the images, and the photographer gives the person or the model images. So the photographer gets images for their portfolio and the model gets images for their portfolio, and neither person has to pay anything other than any travel expenses or coffees or things like that. So it's a free trade, and TFP comes from an old term, time for prints. So you give your time, you get some prints back in the film days, and TF means trade for, but they are the same thing. So I've had a look at my portfolio and I found some quite interesting statistics. Now, some of those statistics are obvious to me and they just confirm what I already know, and some of them are quite interesting. So counting up what's in my portfolio, I've shot with 52 people. However, I've done more shoots than that. I've done closer to 70 shoots. Now, why, when I've done 70 shoots, have I only worked with 52 people who've ended up in my portfolio? Well, if I do a paid shoot, I'm under no obligation to do anything with the images. I've hired the model or the person or the actress or whoever or actor, and I'm under no obligation. If I do a TFP shoot, I am obliged to pass some images over. There are paid shoots I've done and I haven't edited the images yet. I haven't used the images yet, just because I haven't got around to editing them. And that's fine. I'll get to edit them someday. I still enjoyed taking the images. I still enjoyed the process. But with a TF shoot, I'm obliged to give some images, so I will edit them. And even when I've not liked the TF shoots, which has only been once, and I did an episode on this called I Had a Bad Shoot, I've still sent across images. I've still edited them within the time frame given. So I always hold up my end of the bargain with a TF shoot. The person turning up holds up their end of the bargain, I suppose, by turning up and standing there and being photographed. So it's not a like for like, that's what I'm trying to say, because some of the paid shoots I haven't edited yet. One day I will, who knows. It's probably worth talking about what paid constitutes. Now, a paid shoot is where the model or the person being photographed is paid by the photographer, and there will be a contract stipulating who owns what and who can use what. But generally, the photographer will have the contract so that they can use everything and the model can't, simply because it's a paid shoot and they paid for the model's time. I have contracts for both TFP and paid shoots, and that's just the way I work. I'm always upfront with what will happen, where the images will go, etc. Some people aren't, some people are. That's up for debate, I suppose. So with a paid shoot, sometimes a photographer will give the model a few samples. It ultimately helps to promote the photographer. I don't do that. If I pay someone, I don't give them any images, and that's just the way I work. So let's have a look at this. Let's dive into these stats. So there are two genders that I could pick from, male or female, And 90.4% of the models I worked with were female. That didn't surprise me because on the site I used to sort shoots out, the models are predominantly female. There are more female models than male models. So it's not surprising, it didn't surprise me. And personally, I prefer shooting females. You can get more poses out of them. There are advantages in shooting males. A hard light looks better on males. You don't need to do so much editing because a sort of gritty urban look and hard light and hard sort of photograph looks better on males. It doesn't work on females, so it has to be a lot softer for females, so you end up doing more editing. You would take blemishes out of a female, but you wouldn't necessarily out of a male. There might be pores or cuts or scars in a male that would add to the photograph. Well, you wouldn't have those in a female portrait or fashion shoot. You would generally edit those out. So there are advantages to shooting males, but generally I prefer shooting females. So there's more females around. There's more females trying to build up their portfolio. So generally I'm going to shoot more females, and that's not surprising. I suppose what is surprising is the high number of males, 9.6%. It's probably higher than quite a lot of people's portfolios, but there we are. In terms of paid shoots and TF shoots, well, I've done 25% of the shoots that feature on this portfolio were paid shoots. Not every paid shoot is going to cost the same amount of money. Not every paid shoot is going to end up costing the same. I generally shoot for 2 hours, and 2 hours is the maximum I shoot for because generally after an hour, I've got what I need. You need time to go to different places. You need time to get different looks, particularly if you're doing a TF shoot, because you want to give people not 50 images that are all the same apart from the standard facial expression. You want changes of outfit, changes of look, changes of lighting. But past 2 hours, I don't need it. And it goes for paid shoots as well. So I generally don't do a paid shoot for more than 2 hours. Generally after an hour, I've got what I want, to be honest, on either shoot. So paid shoots and TFP shoots, 75% TFP shoots, not surprising there. Here's the question though, which I'm going to answer later. Which gives the better results? TFP or paid? And I'm going to come back to that. My next statistic is, are they shot outside or are they shot indoors? Well, 71% are shot outside and 29% are shot indoors. And the reason for that is simply because I don't want to pay for a studio. If I'm paying for a model, I really don't want to pay for a studio. If I'm not paying for a model, I still don't want to pay for a studio or somewhere to shoot. It's just another expense. And I quite like shooting outdoors. You can still take lights with you on an outdoor shoot, and you can still do good stuff on an outdoor shoot. But yeah, I don't really want to pay for indoors. In the winter, I'll tend to do more indoor shoots than outdoor. Hence why I've got 29% are indoor. And that will generally be maybe someone's house, in a studio, in a location that is not an outside location. So yeah, 71% outdoor. Again, not surprising. I've got 146 images in my portfolio on this specific site. Of course, I've taken way more than 146 images. Now, of those 146 images, they've had 1,237 likes. People have browsed and thought, yes, I like that image, that's quite good. So that works out at 8.47 likes per image. And that likes per image is going to become quite important later when I go back to that question I asked earlier. Of those 146 images, I have 95 TFP images in my portfolio, and that has given 714 likes. That is 7.6 likes per TFP image. Images that I've ultimately paid for by being on a paid shoot, I've got 51, and I've got 523 likes. So there are less likes, but then there are less images. However, it does work out at 10.25 likes per image. So earlier I asked the question of which is better, TFP or paid? It looks like my paid images are better received than my TFP images. If I look at which image gets the most likes and which has been the most popular image, it's been a TFP image. However, it looks like statistically on a per image basis that paid images are better received than TFP images. Now, why is that? Does paying get better quality? No. Does paying make me better? No, it doesn't. I'm still the same whether I pay money or not. My effort is still going to be, well, it's still down to me. It might be better or worse, but paying doesn't change the effort of me. Where I think the difference comes from is when models start out, they do TFP to build a portfolio. So inherently, they are more experienced when they start to charge. So when I've paid for paid shoots, I'm paying for a more experienced model. So they will generally be more relaxed. They'll generally have better posing. They'll generally have better facial expressions, and where they place their hands won't look so awkward. So when I'm doing a paid shoot, that's what I'm getting. I'm getting more experience. Now, I do see people who advertise for paid shoots who aren't experienced, and guess what? I don't do paid shoots with them. I would do TFP shoots with them, and sometimes they'll say yes, and sometimes they say no. But I want to get experience because it does give better images. Don't get me wrong, you'll get some TFP models who are just starting out who are amazing. But when you pay for a shoot or pay for a model, you are stacking the odds in the favour of getting better images because they're going to be more experienced. They're going to be doing this maybe for their job rather than a hobby. They're going to have maybe a better selection of clothes. I'm generalising because that won't always be true. You might have someone who's doing their first shoot who has loads of amazing clothes, is very good, and maybe they'll go on to be a paid model, but that is the statistic speaking. So it was really interesting looking at my portfolio, looking at which images people liked more than others, and there wasn't really a pattern. Males got less likes than females, but then I'd sort of expect that. That's human nature. On the site, it's going to be more men viewing than females. So they're probably going to gravitate towards more female images. So there were no real surprises. But what was surprising was the likes per image of paid versus TFP. I really wasn't expecting that because I know my top images have been TFP. And in a way, with paid shoots, there's no pressure because you don't have to deliver something. There's more pressure on a TFP shoot because if you don't deliver a good image, you'll be like, that's not a very good image. I spent 2 hours being photographed by you and you haven't given me a good image. So there's no pressure on a paid shoot. And again, maybe that's a factor that helps give better images, the fact that there's no pressure associated with it. So let me know what you think. I'd love to hear. And don't forget to give a review of this podcast on iTunes. Thank you. Goodbye.